Today's Thursday, March 16th, 2023, and today's video I'm going to read Isaiah chapter 46, but first I want to talk about my last video and some discussion on that. And whenever you put out a controversial opinion, it usually creates some good discussion, so I'm always glad when people have things to say, people have opinions. But I stand by it that God created evil. There's not anything that exists that wasn't created by God. And I think that's more of just a philosophical thing. I'm not saying that God does evil things. I'm not saying God does evil. It's just that literally there's nothing. There's not anything that anybody could point to and say that happened without God. And I think John had the best philosophical understanding of the nature of God as far as the Gospels are concerned. And John chapter 1 is such a refined understanding of the nature of reality and the nature of God. And I think it's a supernatural understanding. Every time I read John chapter 1, it blows my mind. So, John chapter 1 verse 3, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. There's nothing that exists that isn't here because God. And so to talk about the evil, there is a big group of people that they say, well, the correct way to interpret evil in that Isaiah verse has to do with natural disasters. And I just think that's a really shallow classification of the word evil there. I think that it's a broad term evil on purpose, just to give that contrast of it's not only the good stuff that God made, the flowers and puppies and kisses and anything that is part of anybody's experience ever, not even anybody, any creature, anything that anybody can express is only here because of God. The only reason that anything exists at all is because God spoke it into existence. And it's just that understanding of literally nothing exists outside of God. And it does make it hard to reconcile with the problem of evil then. Well, then why does God allow this stuff to happen? It's a dominion thing too. God created free will. People can choose to do evil, but that only happens because God does allow us to have free will. At any moment, God, the second that anybody is about to sin or do evil, it's within God's power to just strike that person dead immediately. Things only happen because God allows them to happen. And to bring it back to the natural disasters thing, I think that, again, is a very... How could it be so specific? How could the term evil be so specific as to mean, well, God creates these natural disasters that may kill people? What if there's people that are just accidents, freak accidents? That's not a natural disaster. There's good, godly people that just get smashed by a drunk driver one day and die. Is that a natural disaster? No. But God allows us to have free will, and sometimes stuff like that happens. But I guess since I'm talking about this natural disaster thing, this reminds me of, so I have a few points to make. Where is it? It reminds me of this. Remember when God was like, I'm going to destroy Sodom. And then, sorry, I forget who the speaker is, but they kept pleading to God, please don't destroy it if there's 20. They started out with a bigger number. Like, well, God, what if there's 50 righteous people there? What if there's 20? What if there's 10? I just get reminded of this because it shows God's dominion over and power over... I mean, would you call Sodom and Gomorrah a natural disaster? I wouldn't even call it that. It's like clearly the wrath of God being poured down upon this place. But what I'm saying is let's say that a typhoon is going to naturally start and just decimate an island or something. It is within God's power to stop that from happening if he wanted to, or letting it happen. It reminds me of, so when people try to take away the fact that they try to say God doesn't or didn't create evil, I think that they're missing the whole aspect of, can good exist without evil? Could God have created light without there being darkness first? Is that possible? And okay, anything is possible with God, but that's where it starts to get into. In my last video, I start to say things, but is that would that have been an interesting thing for God to create a place where he created light, but there wasn't ever any darkness to contrast with that? I just assume that God did it this way because it makes more sense, because it's better this way. That I think that this place is made in a way to make souls better. And if everything starts out hunky-dory perfect, there's no struggle there, there's no growth. Like Adam and Eve, when they were in the garden before they ate the fruit, they were just walking around naked, and they didn't even know that they were naked. What kind of it just seems almost like you're just an animal at that point. And anyways, another thing about God doesn't do evil, but God created, this was another thing too, some comments about like trying to say that God didn't make Satan, which doesn't make sense to me. God certainly knew everything that Satan would do when he created Satan. Okay, maybe Satan didn't know that he was going to fall when he was created, but God is the Alpha and the Omega. He's known how this is all going to play out from the very beginning. He didn't have to create Satan if he didn't want to, and he knew exactly what was going to happen. So, and Job is just another good example, I think, of this idea of God having dominion over evil, but also allowing it to happen. And Job is a hard story to read, but there's a purpose. And oftentimes the purpose of that is to glorify God. Look at what an amazing example Job has left for people by God allowing Satan to go do his evil. Job ended up glorifying God. And makes me think of the same martyrs. Any martyr has the same kind of storyline. I mean, the immense suffering that Jesus went through glorified God. And I just read the other day, Book of Acts 7, Stephen, and Stephen has a similar fate, is stoned to death, and as he's dying, asked God to forgive them of that sin. So through evil, God can be glorified. Okay, those are my thoughts about that. Thank you for your comments on the last video. There's a lot of Hebrew revivalists coming out in the woodwork in that video. Anyways, Isaiah chapter 46. Bel boweth down, Nebo stoopeth. Their idols were upon the beasts, and upon the cattle. Your carriages were heavy loaden. They are a burden to the weary beast. They stoop, they bow down together. They could not deliver the burden, but themselves are gone into captivity. Hearken unto me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel, which are born by me from the belly, which are carried from the womb. And even to your old age I am he. And even to hoar hairs will I carry you. I have made, and I will bear, even I will carry, and I will deliver you. To whom will ye liken me, and make me equal, and compare me, that we may be like? They lavish gold out of the bag, and weigh silver in the balance, and hire a goldsmith, and he maketh it a god. They fall down, yea, they worship. They bear him upon the shoulder, they carry him, and set him in his place, and he standeth. From his place shall he not remove. Yea, one shall cry unto him, yet can he not answer, nor save him out of his trouble. Remember this, and show yourselves, men. Bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me. declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country. Yea, I have spoken it. I will also bring it to pass. I have purposed it. I will also do it. Hearken unto me, ye stout-hearted, that are far from righteousness. I bring near my righteousness. I shall not be far off, and my salvation shall not tarry. And I will place salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory. Interesting, kind of a short chapter of Isaiah compared to the ones around this point. I like the my salvation shall not tarry, so Jesus repeated that message. And, well, there's one more. There's something else that I wanted to say. What was it? Anyways. Oh, okay. Now I remember. And so the whole God created evil thing, and then I'm getting into the just thought experiments of, well, could God have created light if he didn't create darkness too? Can light exist without darkness? Those types of ideas. And then my mind goes to heaven and stuff, and it makes sense to me that you don't start out with heaven. That's that's the prize. And so what I think about is, in heaven, it isn't even just, well, for us, it's going to be good and light all the time, but it's not that evil is non-existent anymore, because even in heaven, isn't there, like, far off in the distance, of course, smoldering pits that are going to be smoking forever? Like, isn't Satan chained, and various evil entities are chained and burning for eternity, and some entities are cast out into outer darkness? So it's like that stuff will still be there. It'll just be, oh, now it's their time to eternally suffer and to be cast out from God. But it's not that it's not there anymore. Anyways, interesting last little thoughts, and I'm interested what you guys think. And hope you enjoyed this video. God bless everyone.